Hey, so I'm going to be going through and modeling a character in this video or sort of set of videos. So just wanted to sort of explain some things to start out. So the first video here, I'm going to sort of go through some of the process, some of the setup, some things to look out for, why I'll be doing some of the things that I'll be doing when I go into Maya and modeling stuff, and just giving a bit of explanation. So we'll have like a sort of a video set up to the model, and then I'll get into the model, and then we'll do a separate thing for UVing and a separate thing for texturing. The goal that we're going to be shooting for here is just to make something really simple, and basically like the picture you see right here with a under 2,000 try count. I'll sort of give you some ways that you might be able to add to that, customize it, if you want to give the character some boots or have them wearing gloves or something like that. Like I'll let you know how to set some of that stuff up, but this will be basically our goal, and so it'll be sort of like a beginner tutorial and getting set up with this kind of stuff. And with that said, this is sort of like a beginner thing, and so I wanted to sort of maybe talk about like sculpting. Most professional character artists today, I think, will just start in ZBrush. We're going to be starting in Maya, and there's sort of a couple reasons for this. We're still learning modeling. So this part of this, especially if you've seen the previous videos, it's sort of getting used to just modeling in general, how you should sort of set up a wireframe and edge flow, and what topology is and that kind of thing. Some more advanced character artists, they'll probably already, they're going to know how to do some of this stuff, and they're going to know some of these tools. So even if they're starting in ZBrush, they know how to switch back and forth from Maya and Max or Modo or whatever the program might be. When you're starting out, people tend to want to, well, the programs in general are, it takes a lot to learn it. They're pretty complicated. And so when you finally do get through the hurdle of sort of learning one, you tend to want to stay in that because it's what you know, and we want to try and get past the tool and get to just making the art side of it, because that's why we're doing it and that's the fun part. But as you get better, you're going to want to learn more tools. You'll need to learn more tools, and when you do that, you can switch back and forth between whatever's easiest or what works best. Which is what I tend to think people do more as they're getting better. So professional character artists already have some of those skills, so they can switch back and forth if need be. And if they are sculpting something in ZBrush, you're either gonna take a lower subdivision level, or you're gonna have to retopologize it. Retopologizing it would mean you're going to have an idea of maybe the kind of wireframe, probably be more complicated than this, but you're probably going to have an idea of the kind of wireframe you'd like to make. So this will help set us up to know what that might be. The other thing to note is if someone is sculpting something in ZBrush, it's possible they already have a base mesh, and it's possible that base mesh that they created is sort of a combination something they already sculpted and already retopologized, or something maybe they just made in Maya or Max that they're then sculpting on. So this isn't necessarily like the quote-unquote like professional way to do it, but this is sort of a way for us to learn and get better at modeling, while hopefully making something that we'll like and we'll be able to use later on. One thing I'm going to be showing here is how to use reference images, because we'll be making a character, and the human form is difficult, and if you want to get better at character modeling in general. It helps to start to learn anatomy. So for our purposes, to start out and to make it easier, we're going to use reference images. So I'll show you how to import those, and we'll use them to sort of help us model. And it's a nice tool to know if you're having trouble making shapes early on, and getting like the scale and proportions right. So using a reference image will help with that. So I have some images here, some of which I've grabbed off the internet. So there's sort of a reference here for some of these images of where I got some of them, if you're wondering. So Dzung Phung Dinh, I wasn't able to find his original web post, but he always had a ton of great reference images, so a lot of those are going to come from here. In regards to using a reference image, I'm going to go with something really basic. I just googled T-pose, you could Google A-pose, but you might want to try and find something for a particular character you like Superman or Mega Man or whatever it is. If you do go that route, you want to try and make sure you're not getting something with a ton of perspective. I've seen some students get like an action pose of a character, and it just makes it harder for you down the line when you're modeling it, because it's not a straight ahead reference image or a side reference image. So you want to avoid high perspective or like action shots or anything like that. You want to look for more straightforward images because it'll make it easier to model. You also want to make sure your images line up with one another. A good example is I had a student who was making a Goku, and if you just Google Goku, you can find a nice front and a side image, but they don't line up right. So you want to take it into Photoshop and just make sure key points will line up with one another. This one up here is actually relatively close. I mean, it's off a bit, but it's generally close. A lot of times where people have a lot of difficulties when they're even further off than this. So it helps just to set it up inside of Photoshop. You can, if you hold down Shift, you can draw a straight line and just make sure your key points are lining up. So yeah, composite or line it up in Photoshop. Here's another little tidbit, and I'll try and point this out when we get to Maya, but it helps to have your character face the left in your reference image. If they're facing the right, what looks like the front in one view is sort of the back in another. So people end up moving things in one orthographic view, then they move it in another, and they end up like fighting themselves. Suffice to say, if you just point your character to the left, and if you find an image where your character is facing to the right, just do like Control-T in Photoshop, flip it, and right-click and do flip horizontal, and you'll get it to face the right way. Cool. So this is sort of a standard T-pose for character modeling rigging, just because the character is in a T-pose. This is an A-pose, so they're just standing in A. And if you Google those, you'll be able to find some images that might look sort of, you'll be able to find some images like this for you to be able to use. And this is sort of a good example too of just an image where like this guy just has a little too much perspective on him that you would want to use. You wouldn't really want to use this particular image. You might be able to get away with this middle one, but this and probably this have maybe just a little too much perspective. So topology. Topology refers to the wireframe of the 3D model, and sometimes it's used like in conjunction um, to describe edge flow, which I'll get into in a little bit. The topology of your 3D model should mimic the topology of the human body and face. And the reason for this, the sort of benefit for this, is that you'll get much better animation if it's mimicking the human form. So here's a picture of just the muscles in the face. You can see they're sort of encircling the eye here. We've got it sort of encircling the nose. We've got it surrounding the mouth. And our edge flow and wireframe should shoot for that. So it should shoot for circling the eye, the nose, the mouth, sort of the neck. And that's going to let like our character deformation, the face deformation, to be a lot smoother going down the line. Here's sort of another example of what our edge flow and wireframe should look like. And this is sort of the more advanced method for like what we'll be starting out as. We're just going to make sort of a base head, just to keep it sort of simple to start out. But this is sort of what to shoot for and aspire towards. So edge flow. So edge flow refers to sort of the separation, spacing, clarity, and movement of your wireframe. Like here on the, if you look here on the right, this is sort of the example you want to go for, and you can sort of see, you can almost see the shape of this like plane here and how it's dipping because of the movement of the wires here, and they're spaced enough so it's really clear what's happening. On the left, it's much more jumbled. And so when you're modeling stuff, you want to try and keep a nice, even edge flow. And this sort of tends to happen a lot. So we'll try and course correct for this, to avoid this as we're going through things. And good edge flow is better for character deformation and animation than a high poly count. So it's just better to get some of the right movement of your edge flow than it will be to add a ton of polygons or lines or what have you. And if you've watched some of the previous videos, part of the way that we model is to just add more geometry when we need it. And so here we're sort of starting to think about how we're laying out that geometry. This is more about how like high poly count but with a bad edge flow doesn't necessarily give you better animation. Let's see if I pull this image up here. You should move a bit. Let's see if it'll work. Cool. So here's that same image deforming. You can see the mouth, like these two polygons are getting, they're stretching a bit more than they should. So we have a high poly count here, but the edge flow, the topology, isn't quite what we want. And the reverse of that, or sort of the opposite of that, is we can have sort of a lower poly count, but if we've got nice edge flow, you can see we're getting a lot less stretching, sort of like in the corner of the mouth. And this is sort of subdivided, but it sort of helps to illustrate how you can get just better deformation if you've got good edge flow. I've got these are some just like advanced, maybe a little advanced wireframes and some reference for you if it's helpful. We can see maybe more of the advanced face. We've also got some advanced kind of cuts here in like the knee, for the butt, for the chest, that kind of thing. So if you're looking for maybe a little bit more advanced, if you're doing okay once we get started, maybe these are some things to sort of check on. Here's another one for a male character. And so I'm gonna get into some of the slightly more advanced stuff. So we've got advanced limbs here. Now I'm gonna shoot for just 3 edge loops going across. That's sort of the what I would say like the baseline, the basic thing. If you want, what you can try and do is you can try and shoot for like a limb configuration that can provide for better deformation on like the elbow and the back of the knee. And this is for like low poly, or really low poly characters. So this should move as well, or maybe not. So here we can see, because this edge loop actually isn't going all the way through, so I'm going to use 3, but this is sort of the nicer one. It's using 2 for the back. When this cylinder is bending, you're not getting this sort of pull in when this cylinder is bending. Comparing that to if you do maybe have that edge loop in there, you might get it pushing in a little bit, which can look kind of weird if it's like someone's knee, and a lot of times maybe it happens really fast, and most people might not know what they're seeing, but they might know it looks kind of off. Here's sort of another example where you can see this one only has 1, so when it's pushing in, you can really see it just deforming the whole shape of what would be like our knee or our elbow in a way that we wouldn't really want. So here's just some more examples of that and how you can sort of achieve that cut. We could use delete edge vertex and remove part of this here, and then we could use multi-cut to sort of triangulate this here to get that cut. And just some more examples of that wireframe. If we have time, I might do a separate hands video, but this is sort of just some examples of wireframe for hands. Sometimes I do crab hands, which is like Final Fantasy VII, very blocky hands. I might do a separate video just for hand. The more like nicer hand here isn't too bad. You can sort of just make a cube, a block for the palm, and then cubes for the fingers and the thumb, and throw some edge loops in between the fingers, and then delete faces, combine, and use like your append to poly tool or merge verts, and then you can get the base shape of the hand, and then you can attach that to the wrist that you have. And usually I recommend sort of doing the more complicated parts of the human, like the hand or the head, separately, and then figure out how to attach it to your existing body. It tends to be a little bit easier because it's complicated, and then it can be difficult to try and figure out the shape along with a pre-existing wireframe. So if you sort of start by just trying to get your shape right, and then you can, once you have that, then you can go back and try and figure out, okay, how can I merge my hand or combine my hand with my pre-existing wrist, and it makes life a little bit easier. And then you can also then sort of ensure that you might not have edge loops running all the way up through your character, which you want to kind of try and avoid because that'll kind of ruin your edge flow. And so that's pretty much it. These are some references. Maybe look if you want to look up Dzung Phung Dinh. He's got some really nice like tutorials on ArtStation even now. I wasn't able to find like his old website. I think it might be down, but maybe give him a follow on ArtStation and check out some of his stuff. And the polycount wiki is always really good, and there's a ton more information on there as well, and not just on characters but on all kinds of stuff, so that's a really good resource as well. So hopefully that was helpful. I'm gonna stop the video here, and then I'm gonna start it up again, and we'll get started on actually modeling some stuff. All right, and I'll see you in the next video.